A U.S. official tells CBS News the Israelis, quote, haven't come close to achieving their objective of destroying Hamas. And they criticized Israel's current strategy as, quote, a recipe for continuous war. These comments come a day after the Israeli military's top spokesperson said that Hamas cannot be destroyed and that Netanyahu's government must find an alternative to the militant group in Gaza. CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent and Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan joins me now. Margaret, great to see you. Thanks for being here. So let's talk about Netanyahu. His top advisors met with Biden's top advisors, Jake Sullivan, of course, and Antony Blinken. How is the Biden administration assessing all of this? Do they have any indications? Are they giving any indications that an end to this war may be in sight?
U.S. officials have been pressing Benjamin Netanyahu for an answer to the question of what comes next since October. And so now you're just hearing that frustration spill out into the public space, not just from U.S. officials, by the way, also from Benny Gantz, member of the War Cabinet, who resigned because he said that the prime minister failed to describe anything other than perpetual war. And he didn't come up with a plan for the day after. The defense minister stood up and said, tell me who's going to run this place, because a military occupation wasn't something that the Israeli military, and you heard the military spokesperson reflect that sentiment as well. That defense minister is expected here in Washington next week. So this frustration really is spilling over, and it matters in terms of the assessment of success. Like, how do you defeat and destroy Hamas? Netanyahu has never directly answered that question in terms of what the Biden administration had been looking for. No specifics of who comes in and runs that gate, who comes in and administers the aid. Do you want a full occupation? Because the far right of his coalition government does argue for that. And if he doesn't want it, then he should say that. But you also have the Secretary of State spinning his wheels, traveling the globe with other Arab leaders, with other world leaders, talking about how to pay for and plan for the 25-mile strip that is Gaza.
Yeah, and at the same time, you also have everything going on possibly with Lebanon. I mean, Israel's military has approved a plan for a possible invasion into Lebanon. What exactly are they preparing for? What are the conditions there? And again, I mean, the Biden administration, another example of them trying to ease those tensions, obviously a lot for Antony Blinken.
There's extreme concern within the Biden administration right now about where we are in the possibility of this new front really becoming explosive. And this is the showdown that the U.S. had been fearful of, because Hezbollah is really the strongest paramilitary group backed by Iran. They put some of those smaller militias to shame, the ones who attack our service people in Syria and Iraq. Hezbollah has incredible weaponry and has prepared for a war with Israel. Israel has prepared for a war with Hezbollah for years, not like the surprise attack we just saw with Hamas. So the U.S. has been trying to slow roll this for some time. Back in October, President Biden did get Netanyahu to hold back on launching that front and launched his envoy, Amos Hochstein, to go try to do this diplomatic agreement, to establish a border, to establish a buffer zone. Because after October 7th, when the rocket attacks started picking up with Hezbollah, they basically cleared out southern Lebanon and northern Israel. People have been displaced. They've been able to go home. That's a political problem. And so the idea was, through a negotiation, you could carve out that buffer zone. But now those talks haven't achieved what the Israeli government had been looking for. And the Lebanese government's extremely weak. So it's the U.S. trying to be the midwife to find a way other than a full-on assault. And we have the defense minister coming here from Israel next week to meet at the Pentagon, and this is going to be a big part of that conversation. But Amos Hochstein, the envoy, flying back and forth, really trying to lower the tension and avoid this by brokering a deal. And the U.S. doesn't talk directly to Hezbollah. They have to talk through emissaries. This is complicated stuff.
Right, exactly. You kind of need a map to figure out where everybody is location-wise. And obviously, Netanyahu is expected to come here next month. So a lot to look forward to there. I want to move over.
And U.S. officials have said, don't come unless you have a plan for the day after.
Exactly. And a lot of some Democrats saying that they're going to boycott it altogether. Obviously, a lot of politics for them there. Let's move over to Ukraine, because the U.S. announced today that it's redirecting all of its orders for these Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine. What kind of impact would this make in the war, if any?
Well, you've had President Zelensky say he needs to be able to defend cities. He specifically wanted 7 Patriots. And if you remember at that press conference, he stood next to President Biden, and President Biden said, I'll get you. They're coming. And that they had plans for about 5 at that point. What the U.S. just did, because the U.S. is a supplier to so many countries who buy weapons made here, is say they jump to the front of the line. So they're going to get the things you ordered. We'll make it back to you. But it's the interceptors for these Patriots, which help knock down incoming, particularly in cities. Kharkiv right now is one of the places that they're most concerned about, but to put them in other areas as well, to defend, by the way, at times the civilian population, because Russia continues to target civilian areas. So this is another way, instead of gifting money or weapons, it is saying, here, we'll give you what you need. And they carved out some of the countries and, I should say, customers who don't have to wait. Taiwan, for example, gets to continue to receive these Patriot interceptors because they need them as well with the possible aggression from China.
Yeah, a lot to get to. We didn't even get to Putin's tour of Asia.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on here. So we will look forward to your show coming up on Sunday. Thank you very much, Margaret. We appreciate it.